for the agricultural sector, but it has to be an overall holistic plan that is led by the government. It cannot be that you're simply saying, well, tax incentives if you want to do agriculture. I don't see that as having any impact on our food import bill, which we always complain about as a drain on our foreign exchange, reserves. But yet still, you are not really taking the steps to lead that charge for that agricultural reform.
With that said, Mr. George, why do you suppose such steps are not being taken even though a lot has been touted about diversification? Is it a lack of intelligent thinking? Is it a lack of political will? What is it?
Well, part of it is that you see measures such as this would be really long-term measures, medium to long-term measures. So in other words, you're not going to see the results, you're not going to get it done within a 2-year window. And, the problem with our politicians is they only look towards the next election cycle. And the next election cycle is 2 years away. So they only want things that can appear to appease the public for that, short period until elections. That's how we function in Trinidad and Tobago. In other words, we have governments who simply, they get into office and their intention is just really to look at how they can ride out the 5 years until the next election cycle and then hope to retain governance again. And that's how it goes. Instead of anyone taking the option and biting the bullet and saying, hey, listen, I'm going to be in this for the long haul. I'm going to really sit down and try to put in place plans for the long term, which I may not see the benefit of, but the country will. But the thing is, nobody really wants to do that. Nobody wants to put, country before self or country before party. They simply look towards the political survival from term to term.
Mm-hmm. Now, in that sense, let's shift across primarily to Tobago. $260 million for its development plans. The Minister of Finance said, in principle, he agreed with the policies presented by the Chief Secretary back in June of his $4.5 billion budget presentation, and he wishes them well. Well, $260 million, is that enough of a good wish, good luck to you suggestion?
Well, it clearly is woefully inadequate if it is that one is talking development. But you see, while we can complain and say, well, the central government hasn't allocated enough, I have always advocated that the THA of itself needs to look inward and try to manage its expenditure, because every year in its budgetary presentation, you have a scenario where basically about 88% of its, expenses go towards recurrent expenses. Right? 88% of its budgetary allocation goes towards recurrent expenses. So you're talking paying wages, salaries, you're talking rental of buildings, rentals of cars, rentals of vehicles, equipment, that kind of thing. That's where the money goes. And if it is that you are spending 88% of your budget that way, then you really never ever have enough to do proper developmental or infrastructural works. So they need to look at reducing that bill, reducing that expenditure to see where they can now actually try to save some money to have some leftover for development expenditure. Now, of course, as I say, the government's allocation can be increased and ought to be increased, because really and truly the 260 million we all know is inadequate. But in addition to this, you see, some of the ideas that we've heard from the THA, they are very nice sounding and very airy-fairy, but you hardly ever see them deviling down into the details to crunch the hard numbers to show a proper developmental plan, which has been backed by your architectural, drawing, your engineering surveys, your environmental impact assessments, because these are the things that really matter at the end of the day. Because look at the scenario that occurred some months ago, where they were just simply trying to develop some roads and they hadn't gotten the permission from EMA, and the EMA basically pulled the plug on it and said, hey, you need to get approvals from us. So they need to understand that, look, it's not just a question of creating a nice drawing on your computer or, a nice 3D rendering and saying, oh, look, we're going to build a beautiful city of Scarborough, or a beautiful city of Roxborough, as you saw Mr. Duke come out some time ago with, some, fantastic futuristic looking drawings that, look like a mini Dubai. Of course, yes, it's nice in fantasy and in theory, but in reality, you have to think in terms of, okay, how do we actually achieve this? And there's a lot of hard background work that needs to be done before you can come up with a realistic and sustainable plan.
That's most interesting that you've suggested that. So then you tend to wonder then if this is perhaps a move that very much puts the THA in a position that now has to speak further as to what you've just elaborated upon. And does that also include the THA also have to looking at alternative avenues to fund its development programs?
Well, of course, that's something that they would have to definitely look at. But, the reality is that in terms of being able to borrow on international capital markets, the problem is that the THA as an entity is very constrained and restricted in that regard. So therefore, they will have to be creative. And we have suggested ways that actually the central government can facilitate this process and make it a lot easier. One of the things we've suggested as a starting point is the immediate and unconditional repeal of the Foreign Investment Act. This act, which was proclaimed some years ago, is one which actually crippled all direct foreign investment into Tobago. You had a scenario where there were lots of persons who were willing to, put up massive projects in Tobago. But the thing is, with the coming of that legislation, it really put everything to a halt, everything ground to a halt. So therefore, we have asked the government to repeal that legislation. And it's something that actually is going to be of benefit both to Trinidad and to Tobago, because we keep complaining as a nation that there's a foreign exchange shortage. And yet still you have legislation that is a direct block and bar and impediment to direct foreign exchange investment. Why would you want to keep that on your books when all the other islands, Dominica, Barbados, Grenada, St. Lucia, they are actually rolling out the red carpet to foreign investors and making it easier and facilitating direct foreign investment?
Well, the government is going to make an argument, as has already been made, that we are still spending a lot through our ministries, through of course national ministries and 6 scheduled items. Is that enough that the government is doing on their part, the national government that is?
Well, of course, those 6 scheduled items are the responsibility of central government, and there's no escaping that. And those things, of course, do also redound to the benefit of Tobago and Tobagonians. So therefore, that's understood. But the areas under the 5th schedule of the THA Act for which the THA has responsibility, those are the areas where the THA would need to see how it can increase its access to funding. Because, as I say, if you have so much of your budgetary allocation going simply to recurrent expenditure, then it really leaves you very little wiggle room in terms of any infrastructural development.
So let's expand on that for a moment, because I like the argument that you've made in regards to foreign exchange and all the constraints related to foreign exchange right now. The Minister of Finance made an argument that Tobago has a key role to play in the resurgence of culture, agriculture, etc. He listed a few others. But in that sense, does Tobago understand, or do Tobagonians understand what they can offer or what they have to offer besides a tourist product?
The thing is, you see, I think that comes with a question of vision. The Bible says a people without a vision shall surely perish. And you sometimes wonder if the leaders in Tobago, if the leaders in the THA really understand or really have that type of vision. You see, we have to recognize and realize that we are in a vastly and rapidly changing world, one that is evolving all the time. And I have suggested, and as a chamber, we've also suggested that, one of the ways that Tobago can join the revolution, the digital revolution, is by, first of all, making free internet access available throughout the entire island. Tobago is a small island. That cannot be impossible for the THA to arrange. Let the young people get to be able to explore their creativity, let them be able to explore their entrepreneurial side. There are actually some Tobagonians who are already making local products and selling on Amazon, So the point is, get them access, get them the tools, get them the materials, get them the, resources to be able to, go into new areas. Let them be able to explore things that we, may not have thought of. And that's the way you are going to get that kind of resurgence and resilience built into your economy. Because once you have the micro entrepreneurs, learning and growing and building their businesses, then of course that will also contribute to your economy in Tobago. So we have to think outside the box. We have to think past the traditional areas, and think past even the traditional careers that, we would have, taught our children to say, well, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. I mean, the world is spinning way too fast for that. We have to think in terms of, like digital content creators. Look, we have from Tobago, the famous actor, Mr. Duke, who starred in the Black Panther movies, so therefore maybe we need to look at creating, some sort of a movie industry or something. There are so many ways, but you see, you have to have that vision, and that vision has to come from the top. When you think of Singapore and how Lee Kuan Yew was able to transform, Singapore was a poor, indigent, it was a disaster. When he took over, and he said, listen, we are going to transform this place. He put some hard and harsh measures in place, and the population at first were not in favor of it because they called him a dictator, all kinds of things. But eventually, when they began to see the progress and see the results, they embraced it and embraced him, and he's been hailed as the hero and, the father of Singapore, so to speak, because he is the one who revolutionized and changed that country. And remember, Singapore is a very small country. Singapore is about quarter the size of Trinidad, but yet still Singapore is the fourth largest financial center in the world. They are a major player on the world stage. And let me tell you this, they have almost no natural resources, but yet still they were able to, do so much with so little. It reminds you again of the story in the Bible of the man who gave his servants the talents. He gave one servant 10 talents. That servant, he just buried it. And, after several years, he came back and he gave the master, he said, well, you gave me 10, look, I give you back 10. But then the servant who he gave 1 talent, that servant took that little bit and he leveraged it, he worked it, he multiplied it, he reinvested. And then he was able to now produce much more than the 1 talent that he was given. So at the end of the time, the master said, well, you are somebody I could work with, because at the end of the day, you took the little that I gave you and you made a lot out of it. And that's what we have to start doing in Trinidad and Tobago as a whole, and in Tobago in particular.
You think that Trinbagonians have the patience, Mr. George?
Well, you see, let me tell you, it's something that has to be led from the top, and the government has to show that kind of maturity and leadership, and that's self-sacrifice, because it is going to be self-sacrifice. If you think back to when the NAR was in power, they basically took the decision to sacrifice themselves, because that's what it was, because they said, listen, there are some hard decisions that need to be taken, some steps that are not going to be palatable, but we need to take it to save the nation. And that's what is needed at this time in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not sure, when one looks around at the political landscape, you see too many players who seem willing to, make that type of sacrifice. In fact, most of our politicians appear to be seeking self-interest and be self-serving rather than be willing to, make that self-sacrifice. So that's the challenge we have in Trinidad and Tobago. But unless we get that direction and that leadership and that willingness to bite the bullet and say, hey, listen, Trinidad and Tobago, this is our 5-year, our 10-year, our 15-year, our 20-year plan, and we are sticking to this, we are staying the course, we are going to change because change is not going to come overnight. Even you talk about the crime situation and, how everybody feels depressed about that. That can change. I never lose hope, Kitan. I always remain optimistic because Trinidad and Tobago has so much potential. You see, when you travel all over the world and you look at other countries, you recognize that, hey, listen, our problems are not insurmountable, It's just a lack of proper political will and a lack of our leaders having that gumption and the testicular fortitude to say, hey, listen, I want to make this a positive change, and regardless of what it's going to do to my political career or whatever, I'm going to do this for the nation. Nobody wants to put country before self or country before political party. They all want to toe the line to look for benefits and whatever favors they can get, and that's the real challenge we face in Trinidad and Tobago on a daily basis.
Well, Mr. George, before we bid farewell this morning, and thank you very much for your time, in that sense as well, the allocation, the budgetary allocation for Tobago, what does it suggest of Tobago's position in the national conversation in regards to the Twin Island Republic? Because it's on the lower end of the Dispute Resolution Commission's its suggestions from 2001. But in that sense, how does it reflect upon the position of Tobago in national development?
Well, the thing is, I think that what Tobagonians need to understand and recognize from this is that, look, hey, you have to start looking for ways to wean yourself off of the financial umbilical cord that has you tied to the central government. In other words, yes, the Dispute Resolution Commission has allocated that, yes, you must get a certain percentage of the national budget. But apart from that, try to find your own ways of generating your finances, generating your income. So therefore, in other words, what the central government gives you is now going to be a bonus on top of what you can earn or generate for yourself, rather than it being a scenario where every year you come stretching a begging bowl to central government and, like Oliver Twist from the William Shakespeare play, you're asking, sir, can I have a bit more, please?
Mr. George, thank you very much for your time this morning, sir. Wishing you all the very best and looking forward to the next conversation.
It's always a pleasure, and I always say, Kitan, that shows like this, I am always willing to make the time, because I think by you and I having this type of discussion and discourse, we help to elevate the level of conversation in the nation. Because of course, we're a nation of humor, rumor, and old talk and bacchanal, but sometimes there are serious issues that need mature, sober discussion and reflection. And if this is our contribution to nation building, I'm always happy to be part of it. Thank you.
I can only salute that, sir. Thank you very much once more. All the best to you.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful morning.
You too, sir. Have a great day. Mr. Martin George, the chairman of the Tobago Business Chamber, and by extension a patriot, joining us this morning on AM Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break, and when we return, well, we get into some more conversations. We'll be right back.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white, and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us again this morning. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, we're getting ready to welcome prolific pianist, composer, singer, and arranger Mikhail Salcedo as one of his concerts as part of a series towards the production of his next album. Kicks off tonight of Cafe Blues. So we're joined this morning by Mr. Salcedo. He's with us via Zoom. Hello, sir, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, brother. Good morning, everybody.
Well, Mikhail Salcedo reimagined. Why reimagine, though? What's different this time?
Excellent question. So, most people know me to be just a jazz pianist. But for a number of years, I started singing as well. And that's not something that has been part of my performances for the majority of years that I've been performing. As well as most people know, the type of music that people knew me to play was extremely jazz-based. And, well, now it's a little more pop-like to some extent, you know. So, and it's a little closer to home because I've started, for some years now, I started incorporating a little more calypso in my repertoire. But I had to find a way to mix and match so that it's calypso with a little bit of jazz because I am a jazz artist. And I think in recent times I've found the perfect match, you know, where we could have that done. So that's why it's reimagined. Plus, I haven't performed locally for a while, so it is kind of reintroducing myself to the space.
What's the formula? Don't want to give away all of your secrets, but what is the formula towards creating that fusion?
What's the formula? So I guess the thing is Kaiso jazz, which is a genre formed that was created by Clive Zander, DC's Clive Zander. It's basically, as it says, it's Kaiso and it is jazz. It's just a question of how much Kaiso to how much jazz. It's basically like cooking, and you decide how much of which ingredient you're going to put in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it is.
But you've also chosen to have this concert series during the month of Calypso Month, a tribute to Calypso Month. Is that on purpose, of course, given what we're speaking about this morning?
That actually was not done on purpose. Initially, I was going to have the concert in September, actually September 30th, to be honest. And then we couldn't get that date. And we got October 5th. And I was like, all right, okay, cool. Because I started off with about 18 songs, So I was like, all right, okay, cool, October 5th. And when I started planning the songs, as I started stripping away, I recognized it was Calypso Month. And I was like, hey, I have these arrangements of Calypsos sitting down for a while, might as well do the show geared towards our Calypso History Month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's really how it came about. Everything just kind of fit into place.
Everything just worked out well. It all happens for a reason. But speaking about the individual, the artist that I am speaking to this morning, you've been in this industry for close to 30 years. And growing up, and even along the course of your journey to where you are now, what were some of those bands or musicians that really, inspired you or you aligned yourself with? That really said, listen, this is me, this is the sort of music I love and I want to perform?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Namely, I would say Michael Lochitong, in particular with Calypso jazz and a modernized version of Calypso jazz. He is one of the producers locally that really had a nice little twist to what we would call Calypso jazz, because there's also Clive Zander, who I performed with for some time as well before he passed. Terence Shaw, Sean Thomas, all those are guys who have really, as according to me, they've mastered the art of touching Calypso songs and making them palatable to both audiences, the audiences who love Calypso in its rhythmic form and the audiences who love jazz, So there's many people that I played with: Dean Williams, Vonner Bigford, actually Tony Paul, who is a guest artist on the show. I grew up through the years in music with Tony. So those are really the names that I would say that I followed and that really assisted in me becoming who I am today.
Becoming who you are today is not just a musician that performs as well. You're also, you've played the role of a teacher. You've even had your diploma in music performance from UTT.
Yes.
All that is part of your journey, as part of who you are, and a part of who we are going to see tonight.
It's everything. And actually, so when I started teaching, I was teaching in Couva. And at the time, I had a friend who, Modupe Onilu, his family is a family of percussionists. And they had an album called Organic Awakening, where they used regular instruments, some African instruments included. And there's a song called Shogunas where they mimic the sound of a tabla using the talking drum. And that song, I used to listen to it every time I'm going to school on the mornings. And that sparked an arrangement that I did of a jazz standard. And I did it over in a calypso, but including the tabla. So to some extent, what it was a cliched version of what we say soca music is, which is a mixture of Indian and African rhythms, you know? So, yeah, so it even the teaching still really had a big part to play in what I do today, just because of where I taught.
That is most incredible. So as we're looking towards the concert later on tonight, let's speak about your band now and all those who will be performing alongside you.
All right, so we got Nicholas Thomas, which is a young drummer in Trinidad here. A beautiful, beautiful drummer, nice tone. So Nicholas Thomas, there's Andre Jack, who's a seasoned player on bass. There is Emil Fortune on keys. Jason Bishop on the guitar. I haven't played with Jason. My last time playing with Jason Bishop would have been in 2012 for Jazz Artists on the Greens. So it's really good to connect with him again. Emil was also with me on that show. And then there is Aaron and Candice Eiffel. They're going to be doing background vocals. There's Tony Paul on the sax and Shiva Manik on tabla.
Oh,
and
wow.
that is being hosted by the wonderful Jarrell Forbes.
You sound like you have quite an amazing lineup there, actually.
Oh, yeah, man. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And all this is part of a series towards the production of your debut album. What
Yes.
we're looking forward to that album. I'm curious to know, is it purely a Caribbean jazz, calypso jazz that will be on your album? I see the eyes opening there.
Purely. Let's not go too pure, but yes, it is basically Caribbean jazz. So over the years, like I said, I had arrangements that I did of a couple calypso songs, a couple soca songs and whatnot, and just really never recorded it, you know. And I may put one or two compositions on the album as well, but the album is actually more focused on the Caribbean jazz, jazzed up versions of Bacchanales from Corinne Dubois, Lying Excuses from Sparrow, Far From Finished from Voice, Give Him Thanks from Rupi, you know, some old songs, some new songs, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, sir, as we get nearing the end of this interview, tonight the concert is at 8 p.m. at Cafe Blues. Where can people get tickets?
Well, at this point, they're probably going to have to purchase tickets at the door. But as if there's still room remaining, people can get tickets online on the Eventbrite website. And we always encourage people to go there so that they can secure a spot. A lot of spots are gone now, but they can always come at the door and pay.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning and the...
Thanks for having me, man.
No, it's my pleasure, because I'll be very honest with you. I'm disappointed that you said you never recorded, because congratulations to you on this venture and towards the production of your debut album. You've taught a lot of people, and you are still encouraging others based off of the lineup of your band later this evening. But I will say, why I'm disappointed, a talented individual like you has a lot to give to the world, to the Caribbean, to Trinidad and Tobago. And that, sir, I'm looking forward to. So thank you so much, and all the best tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All the best. Mikhail Salcedo joining me this morning. Salcedo, you're imagined tonight at Cafe Blue from 8 p.m. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to his debut album. But until then, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll get into some regional updates.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continue to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
From Maracas Bay to Arafita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shark brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We now get into some regional updates. My apologies before we get to WSN's news on the hour in a couple of minutes. But we're starting off with Haiti this morning, of course, as the United Nations Security Council has approved the deployment of a multinational military force to combat ongoing gang violence in Haiti. This was explained as countries will be participating, and there's also some question as to whether or not the U.S. will offer support. So let's take a look at this report from NBC.
After more than 2 years of gang violence, deadly clashes, and brutal kidnappings in Haiti, international troops now being called to intervene.
13 votes in favor.
Let's
The
just go
draft
Cuba too.
resolution has been adopted.
Tonight, the United Nations voting to send military force to stabilize the country. Gangs currently controlling over 80% of the country's capital, Port-au-Prince, according to the UN, who has called the status quo a catastrophic spiral of violence. The vote allowing for a non-UN force to provide support to Haiti's national police for at least a year in hopes of regaining control of critical infrastructure like the airport, ports, and roads. The African country of Kenya willing to lead the charge.
We'll also be training the Haiti police so that they can have their numbers, so that we go, we finish our mission, we come back, we leave them with a stable country.
The Kenyans now have the authorization that they needed to collect this posse, if you will, and put them all together and start to form the force that will go forward and conduct business in Haiti. So it's the green light that they've needed.
The vote comes a year after the country called on the UN for help. Since then, the Security Council has imposed sanctions on some of the most powerful gang members, including Jimmy Barbecue Cherizé, who last month set the streets of the capital on fire, calling for the ouster of the current Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Gang members holding weapons at the ready, some keeping their faces covered, though their gang leader says they have nothing to hide. But it's the Haitian people who are paying the price. More than 2,500 have been murdered by gangs this year, according to the UN, while nearly 1,000 have been kidnapped.
We're at a point now where it's just going to have to start over again, to rebuild a police force, to rebuild civil society.
The recent surge in violence pushing tens of thousands to the Dominican Republic, forcing the neighboring country to shut down its border with Haiti on Friday. The bloodshed now an undeniable cry for help from the international community.
All right, Valerie Castro joins us now live in studio. So, Valerie, we know the Kenyan military has raised their hand. What about the U.S.? Will U.S. troops be in Haiti, I'm sorry?
Not troops necessarily, but last month, the Biden administration pledged $100 million in support in the form of intelligence. Even medical support will be there. Today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged another $100 million with the help of the Department of Defense. It's still unclear exactly what those resources will be. Other countries like Jamaica and the Bahamas, they will be providing personnel on the ground. This could all be in place early next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving across to Cuba now. Cuba's capital, Havana, well, men have been recruited to fight the Russian army in Ukraine. This has been a controversy for quite some time. A lot has been said, a lot has been denied, but this report from Reuters has traced this story, spoken to many loved ones who've left behind. Let's take a look at this report.
I knew the contract was real when I arrived here. The Russian Federation brought me here. Everyone here knew what they were coming for. I know it for sure.
Former bricklayer Enrique Gonzalez is one of many Cubans who say they were recruited by Russia to fight in the war in Ukraine. On a video call to his wife, Yamideli Cervantes, he films the training camp he now works from near Tula, a few hours south of Moscow. Reuters spoke to Cervantes at their home in the small town of La Federal in Cuba. She says Gonzalez's decision to fight for Russia was a financial one. Just days after he left, Cervantes received part of his $2,040 signing-on bonus. She has since been able to buy much-needed essentials, all on Russia's dime.
I am going to say that necessity is what is driving this. If we weren't so much in need, I am sure these men wouldn't have gone. So you work and work and work. My husband worked alone without any assistance. He used to say, I work in bricklaying alone because I would rather give you the money that I would give to someone to get help and tell him what to do. He worked very hard. One day he said, I can't bear this anymore. I asked, what happened? He said, no worries. I know what I will do, but I can't bear this anymore.
Russia didn't immediately respond to questions about Cubans being recruited for their military. The Cuban government didn't respond to queries for this story either. The Caribbean island is economically stricken and communist-run.
National data shows the sign-on bonus Gonzalez received is over 100 times the average monthly state salary in Cuba of just $17. Few places feel the pinch more than La Federal, which is just outside of the capital, Havana. 2022 data says 1 in 4 of its 800 residents are unemployed. On the short dirt road where Cervantes lives, at least 3 men have left for Russia since word of the army work began to spread in June.
Several were recruited, but you can count on one hand those who are left.
Reuters traced the stories of those men and those of more than a dozen others from districts in and around Havana. They come from all different walks of life. One is a shopkeeper, another a refinery worker. The interviews with many of the men and their loved ones, as well as a trove of WhatsApp messages, travel papers, photos and phone numbers, paint the most detailed picture yet of how Cubans are flocking to back Moscow's war machine. 23-year-old Joan Biondi said he knew about dozens of men in Villa Maria, the district that includes La Federal, that had been recruited for the Russian war effort since June. He showed Reuters WhatsApp messages with someone called Diana, who he says is a Russian recruiter. Biondi kept in touch with multiple friends who had signed contracts with the Russian army. As far as he knew, they were fine. Most, he said, were now in Ukraine.
Here you have to work hard to get things done, and you face 25,000 barriers here. For this reason, everybody said, I choose this so that I don't die of hunger in Cuba. They perfectly knew where they were going. I perfectly knew where I was going too.
Despite his initial enthusiasm, Biondi became anxious about going to Russia and cut contact with the recruiter. But Diana was mentioned as a key contact by most of the people Reuters spoke with. All 9 recruits identified by Reuters signed up to fight in the war. Reuters was unable to reach Diana for comment and couldn't confirm her full name. News of Cubans ending up in the Russian military emerged in September when the government, a long-standing ally of Russia, said it had arrested 17 people linked to a human trafficking ring that lured Cubans to fight for Moscow. Reuters could not establish the identities of those involved in the alleged trafficking ring or when and whether they were arrested. Cuba has sent mixed messages about its citizens fighting for Russia. In early September, it said it was illegal for its citizens to fight for a foreign army, punishable by life in prison. Days later, though, Cuba's ambassador in Moscow said Havana didn't oppose Cubans who, quote, just wanted to sign a contract and legally take part with the Russian army in this operation. Cuba has since reiterated that citizens were prohibited from fighting as war mercenaries.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Tragic house fire claims life of 1-year-old in Endeavour. Shadow Education Minister calls for accountability and enhanced funding allocation. Suspect allegedly involved in the Heights of Guanapo shooting detained. Regionally, Grenada inks Air Services agreement with Qatar, expanding CARICOM relations. Now for the details. The 18-month-old Harley Passat off Sugram Street, Endeavour, Chaguanas, perished in a devastating blaze which began around 11 a.m. The infant was peacefully asleep in her bedroom when the flames erupted. In a desperate bid to rescue the child, Harley's parents, grandparents, and concerned neighbors rushed to the scene, risking their own safety to save her. Tragically, despite their efforts, the ceiling of the burning house collapsed, trapping Harley inside. Harley's mother suffered severe burns on her and had to be rushed to the hospital. Harley's father and grandfather, both of whom sustained burns to their faces, amidst the chaos. An investigation has been launched into what started the fire. Police say they've captured 3 men, one of whom is implicated in the Heights of Guanapo massacre. in which 4 siblings were shot dead. Police reports indicate that the 3 men were arrested in a raid on an abandoned house in the heights of Aripo at 3:30 p.m. on Monday. In custody are a 34-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 21-year-old, all from Heights of Aripo. The 34-year-old is suspected to be the man who led the killing of the siblings. According to police, they found an AK assault rifle with magazine, a Beretta pistol with magazine, and a holster, 39 rounds of 7.62 ammo, 34 rounds of 9mm ammo, 10 rounds of 5.56 ammo, and 3 cellular phones. The suspects are at the Pinto Road Police Station. UNC MP Anita Haynes, serving as the Shadow Education Minister, emphasized the importance of accountability and effective resource utilization in the education sector. In a recent statement, she highlighted the need for the government to demonstrate tangible value for money in the sector while ensuring that allocated funds are meticulously accounted for. Haynes expressed concern about a funding shortfall in critical programs designed to benefit both students and teachers. She pointed out that some of these programs, previously discontinued by the PNM government, have now been reinstated under new names. Among the immediate challenges facing schools, she identified structural issues as top priority requiring swift attention. Regionally, in a recent development, Grenada has joined the ranks of CARICOM members by signing an air services agreement with Qatar. Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell embarked on a 1-week overseas trip last Saturday, with Qatar being one of his destinations for this diplomatic mission. Press Secretary confirmed that the Prime Minister was accompanied by Sylvia Bennett Thomas, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Public Utilities and Civil Aviation, and Marlon Carter, a civil aviation officer holding the position of Air Transport Licensing Authority Secretary. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
We exposed 5 strangers to KFC's delicious chicken to see if any time could be KFC time. And at the first bite, the party began. We repeated the experiment during the day, during business hours, on weekends, with sunshine, with rain. And it's confirmed. KFC's flavor makes any time KFC time. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. We're gearing towards the last interview this morning as we focused on agriculture here in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, agriculture has over 250 million in incentives to farmers, but it's also been given the lowest end of the budgetary allocation of just $1.44 billion. Now, what does this mean, especially as the theme of the budget includes diversification? And the Minister of Finance focused a lot on agriculture in his budget presentation. So let's expand on that this morning, again, from somebody who's on the ground and working, knows the situation very well. I'm joined by the President of the Trinidad and Tobago Agricultural Society, Mr. Dara Rampersad. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Hi, and good morning. Good morning to the viewers outside here as well.
And thank you very much for joining me, sir. 1.44 billion. First, let's get into that, particulars with regard to the allocation. Satisfied or accustomed to this?
Well, more or less accustomed to this, right? But however, this year we heard about an increase as opposed to the previous year for agriculture. Looking into that, I mean, sometimes it could be like I heard this all before. Speaking from the point of the stimulus package, when they mentioned agricultural infrastructure, that $150 million was allocated for the improvement of agricultural infrastructure. For the past 2 years, I have been calling for the improvement of agricultural infrastructure development and maintenance at the same time. And it was a pity that when the budget was read, we could only account for one area in which we assisted, which was the Plumitan area. However, that bridge had collapsed and that work was mandatory. But what about the other areas in terms of maintenance? In terms of maintenance of agriculture infrastructure, what about Jerningham? What about Orange Grove? What about Felicity? What about Tabakit, Rio Claro, Siparia? How come we only was able to service one area for the entire financial year?
Now, also, sir, the minister said in 2024 he's allocated 400 million further for agriculture, 250 million in incentives, and 150 million for infrastructure development through the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited. Again, this is something that you've commented on previously in regards to exactly where's the money going. You're not necessarily seeing it or experiencing what the minister is speaking about.
Right, so for example, that 150 million going to Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises. We intend to reach out to the Palo Seco Enterprises because the ASCT intends to play an important role there in terms of identification of some of these areas that will need the attention in terms of the agricultural infrastructure maintenance and development. So we will be reaching out to them because we also are curious as to where the funds is going and how it is going to be utilized. At the same time, too, another topic that came up, which is always on the top of the list, is predial larceny. And within the past year or so, there was a statement issued by the Ministry of Agriculture stating that the predial larceny squad is all well and good and they are meeting with farmers on a regular basis. I call BS on that statement because as the president of the Agriculture Society, myself and my members are outside on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, meeting with the farming community. And for this year, we have not seen the predial larceny squad having that very active interaction with the farming community at the same time. So why put a statement outside here stating that this is taking place when it is not? However, I heard that they did discuss the predial larceny squad again in the budget. And I am aware that 80 members or 80 new persons have been recruited and are in training towards the predial larceny squad. However, it was rumored in the last fiscal year that the predial larceny squad would be getting some vehicles. However, this purchase was not made. So we are hopeful that seeing that the officers have been recruited and they're in training, that within this fiscal year, we are going to see the vehicles and whatnot being added to the predial squad to add to the coverage that we have outside here.
The minister says agriculture is on the decline. It's accounted for less than about 2% or less than 2% of GDP over the last 5 years. Any explanation as to why this may be the case?
Okay, so beside that, we also spoke about leases, right? In the budget as well, assisting farmers with leases. And the process for leases needs to be shortened. And when I say shortened, this is not a one-year process. We have farmers awaiting leases as much as 40 years. That process is too long because the criteria to access anything in agriculture now is that you must have proof of land tenureship, whether by ownership, lease, permission to use affidavits, these kind of things, right? And we have heard about a $250 million going towards the agricultural incentive program. At the same time, how many farmers are able to access the agriculture incentive program? Because this only goes out to the persons who were able to meet the criteria. We have a big population, at least 60 to 65% of the farming community that are squatters and are unable to access the incentive program. And whilst we have heard of the $250 million allocation towards that, we have farmers who have been waiting as much as 3 years after submitting claims under the same and have not received that. So, certain questions will arise as to, are we going to pay these persons who have applications inside for the past 3 years, or are we moving from this point forward? These are some of the questions that are going to rise there. So, as I say, the Agriculture Society is very hopeful coming out of the budget that was read, because it seems to have tried, the government has tried to address some of the issues that we have in agriculture at the same time, but we are yet to see some of these things materializing at the same time.
Well, the argument has been made, Mr. Amplia, you should be more than hopeful. According to the government, the agricultural sector here in TNT is probably close to being completely tax-free. So if that would be the case, it surely is an area that could be exploited by farmers and encouraging more young people to get into farming, as said by the Minister of Finance.
Okay, so going back to that statement about agriculture being on a decline, there's a reason also because the existing farmers, the current farmers in production, they don't want the children involved in agriculture because of the amount of hardships that they face, starting with land tenure as one larceny on the top of the list now, and besides that, the high input cost. It is commendable that we are making moves to bring agriculture tax-free. However, majority of the items that we already have in the agriculture sector are already tax-free at the same time. So this is nothing to jump and clap about, because what we're going to receive is just probably the additional, a few inputs that are going to be, the tax is going to be removed from a few inputs. However, the majority of the items used in agriculture are already tax-free at the same time. What we need to look at is that Trinidad and Tobago has a wonderful incentive program. It's one of the best incentive programs probably in CARICOM at the same time, because it caters to all the needs of a farmer, starting from land preparation, irrigation, but we have incentives back on vehicles, equipment. If you want to secure fenced properties, a wonderful incentive program. The issue is, how do we make it accessible to those who are in production and that have not met that stringent criteria of land tenure? Because at the same time, we have persons who own land and are not in production, but they benefit from the incentive program because they have met the criteria.
So what the minister is saying in regards to the aging population is accurate, because you're making the argument this morning that even though there exist a lot of incentives, there's still so much hardship that farmers don't want their children to get involved in agriculture in TNT.
Exactly. So on the other hand, there's always a good side to things, right? So for example, the youth program in agriculture at the same time, where we are encouraging youths to get involved in agriculture, the next generation, right? Because we always need the next generation involved. We are exciting them with the youth program. And I think that we need to prepare these youths for what they're going to face, because we need to start to deal with the daily issues in agriculture and try to correct some of these. So when these youths that we are introducing to agriculture, they do not face the same problems as our forefathers in the agriculture system. And bearing in mind that year after year, we have made the same complaint in some areas, because I have some areas that have been unattended to for years. As it pertains to pre-deal larceny, I have the same complaint. As a matter of fact, I have increasing complaints coming out from the farming community as it pertains to pre-deal larceny. So we need to fix some of the existing issues whilst we are introducing these youths into agriculture. So it's commendable that we are introducing youths to agriculture, but at the same time, let's try to fix some of the existing problems so that when these individuals actually come into production and make it their livelihood, they are not faced with the same challenges as our forefathers was over the past 40 years or so.
You're saying it's commendable, the youth agricultural programs that have been implemented by the Ministry of Youth Development and National Services, as well as the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Is that being utilized?
Well, the program is taking place right now, and I have seen the involvement of the youths. They are very excited about the program at the same time, and I hope that the program is one that follow through to the end. Is a very, to me, is commendable, because we need to encourage the involvement of youths into agriculture. However, at the same time, accessibility in terms of accessing grants and whatnot, the process takes some time as well. But under the Ministry of Trade as well, encouraging to things such as agro-processing, on the same, there is a big and a huge need for us to invest into agro-processing at this point in time, if we want to continue to have local foods available, right? And there are a number of things that we can do coming out from the agro-processing industry at the same time. Agro-processing is the way forward in many different methods at the same time that we can preserve our food supply, right? So these things are commendable at the same time, and the Agriculture Society will like to help push and promote some of these aspects or partner in some of these aspects at the same time going forward, because we at the Agriculture Society on that side as well, we have received one of the smallest budgets under the statutory body's allocation. Our budget is very, very small as compared to others, but we are willing to partner with our brother and sister organizations to get the job done at the same time.
So what is the outlook, Mr. Rampersad, in terms of agricultural production here in TNT over the course of the next 5 to 10 years? There's been conversations surrounding expanding such. With all that you've suggested this morning, though there may be younger people not necessarily getting involved, the opportunity exists. So what about agricultural production? Is that going to be expanded? Are we going to see a ramping up of such?
Okay, so it was once stated that the agriculture sector in Trinidad and Tobago is a private sector. However, the assistance that we need from the government we will always need that assistance because of the costs involved for some of these things in which the farmers require, such as your access to your farm, right? So your agricultural access routes, drainage, clearing of channels, the silting of ponds, right? So we are always going to require some level of assistance at the same time. And the reason why we have some farmers on the decline, or agriculture on the decline as well, is because if you look around, you would see some areas that are abandoned now, right? There are some areas that are abandoned because they cannot access, the farmer cannot access the land or the availability of water, or because of the increase in terms of predatory larceny as well. And again, it goes back to the same issues that have been plaguing the farming community. So agriculture is on a decline unless it is that we can rectify and give some level of encouragement as well to the existing farmers, because remember, these individuals are the ones that will set an example for the next generation coming up. Because if you are the next generation in agriculture and you look over to those who are in the existing system, you want to see some success stories at the same time that will drive you as a youth to continue to be in agriculture too. Because agriculture is a sector that if you don't have an existing passion for, it makes no sense being involved in.
Well, Mr. Rampersad, as we're nearing the end of this interview, and thank you for your time this morning, is there anything that you would have preferred to have seen different being presented by the Minister? I know the allocation will always be debated, heavily debated, but in terms of what he said and in terms of what he presented versus what you all have been experiencing, is there anything else that you would have preferred to have seen different?
Well, what was presented is basically what we have been pleading, begging, and asking for. What we would like to see happen is that we would like to see some of these items materialize, because some of the items, again, that was reiterated in this budget, we also heard it in the year before, yet we didn't see some of the items being materialized. What we would like to see is some of those items materialize. And for example, again, when we are listing agriculture areas, I hope that when the following year's budget is read, that we are able to call out at least more than one area in which we were able to assist in the entire financial year, and not just one at the same time.
So in that regard, implementation, promises being made, implement them, get through with them.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir, for joining me this morning on AM Prime, and thank you for the conversation and for giving us more insight as to exactly what is taking place. Wishing you and the rest of the society, as well as its members, all the very best.
Always a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick break here on AM Prime, and when we return, we'll conclude this morning's edition of the program. We'll be right back.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude this morning's edition of AM Prime, we have time to get into one more regional update. So we're moving across to Barbados. Now, scorching temperatures. Let's just understand that. TNT has been facing that over the last few weeks, as well as the entire Caribbean. And though there's been some reprieve recently with rains, and it's expected that today and tomorrow rain, heat is still affecting every aspect of life. Now, in Barbados, the heat that Bajans are experiencing causing an increase in fish prices. It has been a record-shattering heat season for Barbados. Director of the Barbados Meteorological Services, Sabu Best, said temperatures at one monitoring station have reached heights they've never seen before. The high temperatures, which they've been magnified by Tropical Storm Philippe, and that took place last week into this week, are expected to last through till the end of this week. He's reminding the public to take precautions to protect themselves. Also, crops, of course, are being affected as well. So this report coming from Barbados.
Barbadians are already paying more for fish due to the hotter than usual temperatures, as fishermen report that warmer waters are running the fish.
The heat more affect the fish, because the temperature of the water is so high, the surface temperature is so hot, that the fish let the depth to the bottom, which is colder water. Boats is custom branding 3,000 and 4,000 pounds of fish. No boats only bring 100 pounds and 50 pounds and things.
With less fish coming in, the price has gone up.
Fish is usually sell from the boat at $4 a pound and $5 a pound. Now, if you go to the market now for buy fish, you go get fish about $8 or $7 a pound, or even $9.
But amberfish aren't the only ones affected.
See, the fish that are affecting by this heat is the fish that live on top of the water. Kingfish and barracudas and that kind of fish. All them fish just running. Put you on the water right now, you will feel like the water warm, 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 warm.
He adds that even the fishermen have been forced to make changes.
Enough boats that custom going in the ocean, catching armorfish and turpics and them kind of fish, and dolphins and them. Then how to stop and go ray fishing and thing. We go do some big umbrellas on the boat and thing. Because the sun real hot. It's nowhere to hide. If you go in the boathouse hot. If you come from the deck, it's that hot. You got to keep putting on the deck hose and rather down the boat all the time. You can't even walk barefoot on the boat. This is the hottest sun I ever fished. I been fishing for over 37 years now. And this is the warmest sun I see in my life.
Captain Nurse is hoping for cooler days to stop the price of fish from overheating.
At our Charnock Christchurch operations facility, staff measured a peak temperature of 34.2 degrees Celsius, beating the September record of 33.1 degrees Celsius set back in 2005, and the previous highest maximum temperature ever recorded of 33.6 degrees Celsius. The record was shattered by 0.6 degrees Celsius. Rains have fallen off the past few weeks and is negatively affecting rain-fed crops, especially in the St. Philip and Christchurch area. This, in conjunction with the high temperatures, can have significant negative impacts on the farming community. However, rain should pick up again over the next 1 to 2 weeks and offer some relief. The BMS highly recommends that persons with these interests follow advice by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security.
Well, we're all suffering from that heat here in TNT as well. As the fisherman said, water's warm. Could have emphasized it a bit more, say exactly how warm it is, but really it's a scorch out there at times. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. It's always a pleasure, and thank you very much to my guests for the conversations this morning. Wish you a good day ahead, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, Met Office adverse weather alert is in effect, yellow level as of 5 a.m. this morning, and is in effect until 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening. So, whatever you do, just be very careful out there. Anyway, I'm Keaton Shaw. This has been AM Prime on the premier platform for Caribbean content, WESN. And until tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., you have a good one. You have a productive one. You have a safe one. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
WESN.
I am Sule A. Joseph, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love. FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
From Maracas Bay to Arafita Avenue and Piaco, Richard's Bake and Shark brings the world's most popular fish sandwich closer to you. Open daily at all our locations.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continue to serve you with pride. First Citizen celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN,